Jules, I'm going to reserve my bile on Spalletti a little bit because, again, I don't want to just make this about Spalletti, about Italy. Switzerland, and I really do believe this, right? Some people now are saying, oh, look, they're so good, like, threat to win the tournament. If they do, I don't think it's going to be through talent. I think it's going to be through what they have up here, through intelligence. Because taken as individuals, yes, Akanji's fantastic. Granit Xhaka was an absolute monster in that game. Remo Freuler played out of his skin. Ebisher's been really good again. Yeah. Ndoye's really fast, and Bolo will tie people up. But like a lot of teams from countries that side, you've got a couple very good players, and you have a lot of guys who are basically role players at their club. But when they play like this, it's like a multiplier effect. They are more than the sum of their parts.
Yeah, because their collective strength has been pretty amazing. Their organization, we said after the Germany game, where they again played so well as a unit, collectively. Their system works well with the back three. They've got intelligent players. They've got some physical players. They've got players who run a lot and keep running and running and running. And on top of Akanji and Xhaka, who've been two outstanding really players in this tournament, who are really the leaders of that team, I guess, with Sommer, the rest follows, and it's not perfect. And we mentioned before the lack of a clinical number 9, for example, and we saw Mbolo missing another big chance against Donnarumma, 0-0 in the game against Italy. So it's not perfect, but for now it works, and they're on the weaker side of the draw as well, which is a massive help. And they've got all that momentum and confidence going into the later stages now, quarterfinals, etc.
I think this is a reminder again for those who follow international football when you see somebody like Ricardo Rodriguez, right? Who, it's funny because I forget what World Cup it was. Must have been maybe ahead of 2014, maybe. I sat down and made a list with Tor Christian Carlson, our colleague, sort of like 10 up and coming players to watch, and he had put both Fabian Schär and Ricardo Rodriguez on the list, and he says, "Oh, he's got a phenomenal foot. He's strong." He's like, "I'm like the downsides." Well, he's really slow.
The slowest player in the world. He made such a good career being so slow.
He's even slower now.
Oh my God.
Now, I understand Akanji's quick. Schär, not exactly a speedster. Again, these are things that you have, these incomplete, imperfect players, right? And yet you have a coach in Yakin who says, you know what? I'm going to focus on the positives. I'm going to have a system that kind of cloaks the situation around them. Because if I have Ebisher coming back and helping, who's super quick, if I've got other players, I can make do with Ricardo Rodriguez. And I'm going to say, look, you've got this phenomenal range of passing. You're going to pass out of the back. And Akanji, you won't, right? Yeah. Because that's not your skill set. And it's this kind of thing. I feel like these coaches of these, mid-tier sides have to get more creative, and they make different choices, and they outsmart the opponents.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, even in the build-up phase, what they do on that left-hand side is really interesting. There's a lot of good things they do. Like, are they one of the greatest teams ever? No, they're not. But what they do works. I mean, Yakin really cracks me up because he obviously has his sunglasses, it's his own range, which I find amazing. He's clearly the only head coach in this competition that has like his own range of anything. And on the day of the game, from where I was sat, before the 45 minutes before kickoff, I saw him coming out of the tunnel where the players are. So this is where you suspect like your head coach is in the dressing room talking to the players one-on-one, collectively, like pep talk, etc., tactics. No, he came round, and I was where the Swiss fans were, came round to literally warm them up. He did the little hey with his hand, they clapped him, they sang his name. He stayed 5-10 minutes and then went back into the dressing room before the game, and I was like, man. So clearly there's a feeling, maybe he wanted to like just milk it a little bit and wanted that kind of recognition even before the game because he didn't know if they were still qualified after. I don't know. But I just thought that was really, really weird, man.
All right. I think it's time to lay into Italy. And I want to get this out of the way first. The fact that we've said this all along. This is a team that I think has maybe 4 players who are legitimately world class, maybe 3 or 4 players who might be world class one day, maybe a couple players who were world class in the past. and then a bunch of guys who are basically filler.
Yeah.
And but as we've said, everybody's incomplete, right? France have Upamecano coming off a terrible season, starting at the back, right? Germany with Mittelstadt, Raum, this kind of nonsense. Everybody's got issues. So that said, I can accept that Italy might well trip up, and they do trip up. But this notion that Italy would just get substantially worse as the tournament goes on, especially against what's on a team that Italy are so familiar with, and to go out and put out such a passive performance, even against Croatia when they were losing, when they had their backs to the wall and being outplayed, there was a lot of fight. Here there was very little.
Yeah, I mean physically they looked out of it really from the start, and okay, Spalletti is a very dogmatic coach. There's no problem. Maybe individually, if you just look at all the head coaches in tournament, he might be the best one, certainly after what he did at club level. But there's one thing, if you can't implement your ideas to your squad for whatever reason, the lack of quality, the lack of talent, maybe the lack of depth, the lack of time.
The lack of time is the big one.
Maybe. But at least make them hard to beat, make them hard to be broken down, make them really strong defensively. And we said before, between the back three and back four, he kept changing his mind, going from one to the other. And it's just like, and this is not good enough at this level because you're going to get found out. And they did. And it could have been far worse than just the 2-0 defeat that they suffered.
I was really curious how he was going to approach this. Look, this is a challenge for everybody, right? And we've said before that you go into the tournament, it's an international tournament, you don't have time to work, so it's more about man management, it's about reading the moment, it's about reading the situation. He was terrible at that too. And I don't expect to see much sophistication. But when you come out and you say, at least we have an identity, and the identity will be this, and it's going to be this system, and it's going to be working on possession and keeping the ball. He didn't. He changed everything continuously. I mean, 6 outfield players changed.
That was weird.
And what? To adjust against mighty Switzerland? You're going to go and you're going to revolutionize everything? All of a sudden, oh, Jorginho. Oh, sorry, Georgie, you're out. And look, I'm not saying Jorginho's perfect.
No.
But when you've built something with him and you're based on possession, the El-Shaarawy, we've covered. Hey, how does Scamacca and Chiesa feel? Right? Oh, no, you guys are dropped for this critical game, and you can sit on the bench while we watch Raspadori and Retegui play, and then they bring them back for this. I really struggle with that.
Really strange decision making. I didn't think they would change manager. So the only thing I thought after the game was maybe he's had enough. This has been a frustrating tournament. You mentioned that he lost it with one of the journalists that he had to call back at 2 a.m. to apologize. So we saw how tense he's been during the tournament. So maybe it was not enjoyable, and maybe he thought, you know what, I'm not made for this. This is not for me. I'm 65 years old, by the way. I've got 2 more years on this contract, but then I prefer club football or whatever. I want to go back to my vines and everything, and But
you thought he was going to resign, really?
Yeah, I just thought like maybe he would have thought
money.
Yeah, maybe
that's
so.
what it is.
But he's not enough money in his life, really.
There's never enough money, because I think if you have that personality, where you're passive aggressive, you're acid tongued, right? And it's funny to a point, right? When you have your cutting, sarcastic remarks, like we all enjoy it. But then when you lose and you don't deliver results, and you treat people, you talk to people that way, then you just come across as something that rhymes with stick, and I'm sorry. And again, after the game, his post-game press conference, right? What does he say? He says, oh, it was hot. That affected us. The heat affected us. Yeah, it was hot. The other guys are Swiss. They live up in the mountains, okay? And you're going to use that as an excuse? Really? Then he brought up the fact that, well, our build-up play was too slow. Gee, maybe if we only had a coach who told them, hey, how about you build the play up quicker? The other guys have faster players. Yeah, maybe you don't play the guy who's 34 years old and you play the people who can run. If you think it is about speed and athleticism, I didn't have enough time to work. Previous Italy managers had more time to work than I did. Really? Okay, so what?
No.
I think he's the second or third highest paid coach at the Euros. And I'm sorry, the reason I bring it back to money is, look at Spain, right? Luis de la Fuente, other than the fact that, I mean, you agree, he is the worst dressed coach at the Euros by
and
far.
He looks like your history teacher.
I mean, he looks ridiculous, right? But lifelong Spanish FA guy, whatever, probably goes to work by bus. And what? He's doing a phenomenal job with this group of players, right? So if there are hundreds of Italian De La Fuentes littered around Coverciano in the Italian FA. If I don't want to save myself money, I bring one of those guys.
Yeah.
I don't go and spend all this money to get Spalletti released from his Napoli contract, give Spalletti a big deal, and then he provides no value added whatsoever.
No, I know. And I mean, to be fair, the only thing we can do now is wait until 2026 and the World Cup. Gabriele Gavrina, who's the head of the Italian FA, said this is the objective now. It's obviously unthinkable, and it would be a disaster, he said, if we miss another World Cup, so it would be the third in a row.
Thank you for bringing it up.
They won't. They will qualify. But then we see, and Spalletti said, I know exactly what I need to do to fix those problems. We go younger. We start from the bottom again. I'm not sure if going younger, much younger, because I think they were the second youngest squad in the competition in these Euros. I don't know if going younger and younger is the right idea, but at least give them, like you said, a structure to it, and it could be something else than what you used to and that you did at Napoli, for example. It could be a bit more defensive, it could be a bit more pragmatic, it could be a bit more on transition. There's a lot of things you can do as a coach, but I guess that's the next step now, is see what they do between now and the World Cup in 2026.
And I also wonder if in the end, because it's one thing for Gravina and Spalletti to say that, oh, we're going to stick around, the work has only just started. To say that, on the day after a press conference before they go home, it's another thing to see whether they're still actually there, in August or September or whenever certainly as far as Spalletti's concerned. I think that part is TBD, because I think people are going to follow the reports. They're going to talk about what happened inside the camp. They're going to talk about him, calling Scamacca lazy, which may be true, but you don't need to go and say that in public.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, I think stuff is going to come out. And maybe they might feel that actually this is not the right thing. You talked about he's 65. He's going to be 67 in the heat, which is probably going to, make his gears move even more weirdly in his head. So I think that's out. I do think there's a lot of very gifted young players coming through for Italy. The under 17s, they won the Euros.
They all win stuff, but they don't play in Serie A anyway. So the problem is also there. The problem has got nothing to do with...
Camarda's 16. He's obviously not going to play for Milan.
No, but even in the under 19s, even in the under 21s, they don't play. The 68% of the Serie A players are foreigners.
Yeah, but you know what?
It's the highest in the big leagues.
I think you'll find England's about the same, and it doesn't stop England from having a tremendous group of players. Right? So to me, that's less of an issue. To me, what we're also seeing, I know this is always the stick. They go out like, too many foreigners. Let's put limits. Blah blah blah. Damn the EU.
Crystal Palace is the club with the most England players in this current squad. So it also shows you that.
But it hasn't stopped England from producing very good players. Is what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, there's no reason these guys can't go abroad, right? We've seen that a little bit. Destiny Udogie, for me personally, and again, had he been fit, he would have been at this tournament.
Yeah.
He would have played in place of Di Marco once Di Marco was out. There are people who are missing too. I think that's a really good base to start from. If you don't get space in Serie A, go somewhere else. I have no issue with it. We have to think like that. Look, you're from France. What does every single good French player do? Even Mbappe.
Yeah, but
but what?
It's different.
Why is it different? Are French people just more adaptable, more intelligent than Italians?
No, they're just it's the feeder league, so they sell. Clubs have to sell.
Right.
I'm not sure in Italy they have to sell their players to.
Look, if you're at a big club, if you're Juventus, Inter, or Milan, then if you can't get into the starting lineup, then you move on.
Yeah,
I have no issue. If you're at a smaller club and a bigger club from another country comes and offers you a bigger contract, move on. Don't stay in your comfort zone. And I think that's also the mentality that people are going to have to get into. But yeah, absolutely dire. Thank you.